Hello and happy Lent. Lent is my favorite liturgical season. Um, I have always loved the more somber tone and really the reflective nature of Lent. And so I'm very happy to be doing another retreat video. So I was thinking about what I'm doing for Lent. My husband and I had this conversation. "Oh, what are you going to do for Lent?" Um, before Ash Wednesday, and we both picked kind of two different activities. So I've decided to exercise every day. It's certainly a struggle, but I know I need to take care of myself, and exercise is part of that. And so that's what I'm doing. My husband has decided to give up popcorn. He loves popcorn, but instead of doing what we've all done as kids. It's like, "Oh, I'll give up this sweet and eat this other one instead." He's decided that anytime he's thinking about reaching for popcorn, he's going to use that as a minute to just pray and talk to God and kind of develop that relationship. So we both took different approaches. We also both have decided to watch Mass on Sundays together, making sure we're doing that as a couple. And we've continued to keep praying for people before dinner. Uh, we found that to be a really good practice, and so we're going to keep doing it. Um, and so I was thinking back, and I read through the readings for this Sunday, and I was trying to really think if I were, back when Jesus was around, if I had said, "I want to see Jesus." What am I asking for? What do I want? And I kept coming back to kind of two ideas, that asking to see Jesus means you want him to see you back, and that I kind of already get to see God in every single person because we're all made in the image and likeness of God. So that's kind of where my reflection is going to go today. So I always think of when I started theater, and I remember being told not to peek through the curtains to see my parents or whoever else was in the audience, because if you can see the audience can see you. And that's something that's always stuck with me. That's something that I've told middle schoolers when I've helped with theater things. But it's also really illustrates what I saw as a theme in these readings. In the beginning, we talk about God writing who he is on our hearts and knowing who we are as people. And then we have a call from us asking for God's mercy. And then we finally circle back to people asking to see Jesus, and Jesus revealing who he is. And some people understand it and some don't. And so there's this thread of what it means to ask to see Jesus. And what it means is that you want Jesus to see you back. And what's terrifying for me about that is God knows me inside and out. He knows what's on my heart. He knows whether my actions and what I say reflect my true intentions. He knows the good things about me. He knows the bad things about me. And to have someone know me so perfectly and to ask to be seen in such a way, for me, is scary. It's not something I always want. And it's I don't know, it's just overwhelming. Um, and so that's what really struck out to me, that these people coming to see Christ were probably looking for healing. They were looking to listen to a teacher. There's certainly areas in my life that I would want healed, not just physically, but also emotionally and spiritually. Um, I know I'm not perfect and that I have shortcomings, but I also know that there are areas where I've been hurt that I would love to just be fixed. Um, so I think, surface level, that's absolutely what I would ask for from God. But would I be ready for that conversation that God would have back with me? would I be ready for God to be like, okay, I've healed you. Now here's where you need to go from here? I don't know. And I think that's something important we need to consider, and need to really, really think about. So I noticed that thread. I was like, okay, so if I open this relationship with God, if I continue in this faith journey, that means I'm willing to let God see me 100%, no hiding. And I kind of thought, okay, bigger picture, outside of myself, outside of my own relationship, what am I seeing here? And I realized that there are certain groups in our community that want to be seen that we as a community are ignoring. And I remembered watching a documentary about homelessness, and they talked about how homeless people who are begging on the streets tend to not have eye contact or a conversation with another person for about a month if they're people living on the street. Can you imagine going a month without looking someone in the eyes? Without having that basic human connection? I was horrified, and I was first indignant. I was like, how dare other people do this? This is horrible. And then I realized, well, how often do I avert my eyes when I pass someone begging for money? Now, I've probably used the excuse, oh, well, they're looking for money. I don't want to give money. So if I look at them, they're going to think I'm giving them money. So I'm just going to keep walking. What is that actually doing to their humanity? And so when I realized this and I was still going into New York for my classes, I decided that I was going to see these people. I was going to smile. I was going to wave. Even if I didn't stop, I was going to make eye contact. And I also started bringing another lunch, and decided, I'd give it to someone that needed food. And I ended up kind of developing this relationship, I guess, with this man in the subway. And I think about him and pray about him still. And I just stopped one day and I said, oh, I have extra food. Would you like a sandwich? Here's what it is. I also have an apple. How's your day going? And he just kind of looked at me surprised and said, oh, sure, yeah, that's fine with me. And then, we had a little bit of a conversation. I said, okay, I gotta go catch my subway. And I did this once a week. I'm obviously not advocating that everyone do this. You have to be safe. And sometimes it's not safe to interact with complete strangers. So please be mindful and know your surroundings and all that jazz. But it doesn't hurt or cost anything to smile and wave and make eye contact. Keep your headphones on if you don't want a conversation. That's kind of the universal sign, right? But how often do we not look because we don't want to see poverty, because we don't want to see homelessness, because we don't want to see someone that desperate? I don't think we actively go, I don't want to see that person. When I was averting my gaze, I didn't want to see people suffering. I didn't want to. And so I was like, well, I just won't look at it. And so I think, as we've, it's been discussed, the dime a day is going to task. Are we actually looking at that community we're helping? Because for a really long time, I wasn't. And I now am. And I actively want to serve that community. And I've actively made commitments, and this is where I'm going to challenge you. My husband and I both talked about this, and we both realized that we were really uncomfortable with the idea of serving in a soup kitchen because probably of the stereotypes we have, though we couldn't articulate why we were uncomfortable. We were just like, oh, this is kind of not how we want to serve our community. And so I took that as, we both independently thought this. Why don't we do it together? There, if we're together, it's going to be fine. And so we both laughed. We're like, okay, actually, yeah, let's do this. we know in the future we want to do service with our children. And we certainly can't just start that when we have kids. That is not the time to start new activities. So we need to start as, a married couple without kids doing these things so that they're a habit that we can, encourage our children. If we have more, we should give. Always make the table longer. My grandparents were always big about supporting others. If you needed a warm meal, you were there. If you needed help with something, they were there. And that's something I want to instill in my children. And I think, um, with COVID, that plan got derailed. So my husband and I have made a commitment. We're going to pick a certain number of amount of time. We're still figuring out what that's going to look like, and we're going to do service in a soup kitchen for however many days we have promised. We're going to do it more than once, and then after that, we're going to kind of reevaluate and decide if that's a good way for us to serve the community. I think it's always good to try new things, do things that make you feel uncomfortable or make you see something you haven't seen before. But that doesn't mean that that's where God is calling us to serve our community. There are lots of organizations I want to do service with that are just in our city. And so I'm going to figure out and try them out and see where God is calling me to help others. And so right now we're thinking that we'll see if our church is doing a certain number of days in a soup kitchen or something like that, and just commit to doing all of the ones for a month. And what we hope to do is break this stereotype and this discomfort we have. Um, and I think that's something we really strive to do, to figure out where is God calling us to help others. That's the point of a community, to help each other. And so these are kind of where I was led after reading and thinking about, I want to see Jesus. What does that mean? And so I just want to leave you with a couple of thoughts. One, if you don't want to be seen, um, think about why. Why don't you want God to see you? Why do you not want other people to see you? So, my challenge for you, and this will be weird, is what I've noticed is as we get older, we compliment ourselves less and less. Talk to any 5-year-old and they will tell you how good they are at lots of things. And it's fantastic. I love that energy. And if you ask any of my classes, it'll be like, well, I'm okay at this. Oh, I really like doing this, but it's not the same energy, right? And so I encourage everyone. I want you to look at yourself in the mirror. It's going to be weird, I promise. It's okay. So you look at yourself and you give yourself a genuine compliment, not, well, I have nice hair, or I look pretty today, or I look handsome today, or, oh, I have a nice smile. I want you to think about, what's something I genuinely like about myself that I want others to see, and work on wanting to see yourself so that you're willing to enter that relationship with God. Because when you want to be seen, it's much easier to then want to see others. And I think, right, we're asked to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. And I know love is another week, and you'll reflect on what that means then. But to get you started, um, think about how you want to be seen. Genuine compliments. Now, my second thing is, make a commitment to serve a community you don't normally see. So if you don't normally do work in soup kitchens, commit to a soup kitchen. If you don't normally do, domestic violence shelters, do that. If you don't normally, um, work with other areas of need in the community, maybe the elderly or nursing homes, commit to do that. Even if it makes you uncomfortable, just commit to doing it 3 times. It has to be more than once. And it's obviously something you're going to do in the future, not right now. But really, really write it down. Like, was said in the Ash Wednesday, right? If you don't write it down, it's probably not going to happen. So write down, I will do X for X number of days. And I think you'll be surprised at the community that you're not used to thinking about or seeing. So I encourage you to want to see yourself, to see a community that wants to be seen. And in terms of, working, okay, so that's self, that's others. So what about God in all of this? I think asking God to see you and know you, he already does, but asking for that relationship in prayer, um, and being willing to be uncomfortable, is really important. So I encourage you just each night to say, "Hey God, um, please show yourself to me and others, and please show me where you see I need help." And I think you'll be surprised at the level of grace you find yourself willing to give other people. Um, you'll find that the smaller things don't bother you so much when you think about the fact that we're all made in the image and likeness of God, that we all desire the same things, that we all want to be seen, and that we all need to work on seeing ourselves. Have a great week and a wonderful rest of Lent.